Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to start off by introducing myself and my Actera colleagues. My name is Ariane Erickson, and I'm the Carl Knapp Go EV Manager. I'll be conducting tonight's presentation in English, and my colleague, Irvin Rivero, the Climate Corps AmeriCorps Beneficial Electrification Fellow, will be simultaneously presenting in Spanish. We're also joined by Sonia Marwood, one of our Actera Go EV ambassadors, and she will be answering questions in the chat box throughout the presentation. Just briefly, best practices on Zoom. Wanted to let you know that this presentation is being recorded, and we will send you a copy of the recording next week. All attendees' videos and microphones are turned off. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Your video, you can turn your video on or off, but please leave your microphone muted. And please, as I said, put questions in the chat box. All right, a little bit about Actera. We are a nonprofit environmental organization. We were founded in 1970, so we've been around quite a while. Our mission is to bring people together to create local solutions for a healthy planet. And currently we are laser focused on addressing climate change while advancing equity. Before we begin, we'd like to introduce and thank our presenting sponsors. Peninsula Clean Energy, San Mateo County's official electricity provider. By providing cleaner energy at lower rates, Peninsula Clean Energy is an essential part of the fight against climate change in our communities. The City of Palo Alto Utilities, who encourages the use of electric vehicles as part of its progress towards becoming one of the greenest cities in the country. And the City of Sunnyvale, whose Drive Electric program is helping achieve its goal of having 20% of all on-road vehicles be zero emission by 2030. And thank you also to our drawing sponsor, PowerFlex, and our event partner, the Sunnyvale Public Library. You will hear from each of our presenting sponsors during our presentation, starting with Shannon Keener from the City of Sunnyvale. Shannon?
Great, thank you so much, Ariane. Yes, hi everyone, my name is Shannon Keener. I'm an environmental program specialist with the City of Sunnyvale. And tonight we will hear about the many financial assistance opportunities that can make switching to an EV financially possible. We'd also like to take a minute and invite you to another Sunnyvale Drive Electric event that we will be hosting on April 9th. This is our Ride into Earth Month event and will be hosted at the Sunnyvale Community Center. This will be an in-person event from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock where you can take a variety of EVs out for a test drive. Additionally, there will be other sustainability booths to explore. To reserve a time slot for this event, please RSVP with the link that will be provided in the chat. We hope tonight's event will support and encourage you to make your next car purchase an EV. Thank you all for joining.
Thanks, Shannon. And next, I'd like to introduce Hiromi Kelty from the City of Palo Alto Utilities.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight. This is very exciting. We're so excited to partner with Actera on a series of classes because I feel like more than anything right now, it's about raising awareness. Tonight, we'll be focusing on the variety of financial incentives available and how Actera can help you transition to a cleaner mode of transportation. We're not just about EVs, but also about things like e-bikes. And so we're really excited to be co-hosting this e-bike event, which will be happening during Earth Month. Ariane and team are hard at work planning this. It'll be a first for us as a city. Because we do feel like e-bikes are part of the solution of reducing carbon emissions. So, you could go to our website here, cityofpaloalto.org/workshops, or you could go to Actera's webpage and all of these events will be listed.
Thank you, Hiromi. Okay, so just a moment here. So our objective for tonight's event is to inspire, inform, and support residents on tight budgets to afford electric vehicles. Just briefly, our agenda will proceed as follows. We will first talk about what is an EV and the benefits of driving EVs, and then we'll take a dive into the financial incentive programs available to help make EVs more affordable. Finally, we'll end with a rebate timeline, and then we will take questions and answers. And finally, we will invite you to take a post-event survey. And by completing the survey, your name will be entered in a drawing to win a level 2 home EV charger valued at $600, courtesy of our drawing sponsor, PowerFlex. So let's begin. All right, what is an electric vehicle? The image that you see here on the screen is not an electric vehicle. It is a gas car, and it should look very familiar to you. You'll see that it has these red pieces inside of it, including a gas tank and a combustion engine. So everyone is very familiar with this type of car. Now, if you add the green components to this vehicle, it becomes what we call a conventional hybrid. And these have been around for quite some time. The Toyota Prius is one great example. It was one of the first, I think it was the first conventional hybrid out on the road. And it has a battery inside it that provides electricity to an electric motor, which also helps propel the wheels forward. So conventional hybrids have both. They have a gas tank and they have a rechargeable battery. The battery is small enough, though, that it is able to recharge itself. So it doesn't need an external power source in order to recharge. So let's talk about a plug-in hybrid. These are newer than conventional hybrids. And in plug-in hybrids, the rechargeable battery actually is larger, and it's so large that it needs an external power source in order to charge. And that's why plug-in hybrids have charging ports and charging cords. And you need to plug them into an outlet or a charger in order to recharge the battery. The beauty, though, of a plug-in hybrid over a conventional hybrid is that the driver actually has the ability to decide whether the car is operating in electric mode versus gas mode. And with a conventional hybrid, the car is actually making the decision. So if you drive a Prius, you know that you actually can't tell the Prius, I want to only drive on electric right now. It chooses. So when you're accelerating really fast, it'll kick into gas. If you're going over 55 miles an hour, it'll go into gas. With a plug-in hybrid, the driver has control. So the driver usually decides to use electric until its range is used up. And most drivers of plug-in hybrids then charge their car so that they never actually have to use the gas tank unless it's absolutely necessary. So if you are someone who doesn't have charging at home, perhaps you live in an apartment building, if your workplace doesn't have charging, if you take long trips often, then perhaps a plug-in hybrid is the right vehicle for you. Now, once you remove the red pieces entirely and you make the battery even bigger, you have what is called a 100% battery electric vehicle. And you'll notice that a battery electric vehicle has no tailpipe because it doesn't burn fossil fuel. So there's no pollutants coming out of its tailpipe. It does need an external power source in order to recharge its batteries, and it runs 100% on electricity. So those are the differences between gas, conventional hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and 100% electric. All right. I think actually I already covered this. Should I get a 100% electric or a plug-in hybrid? It really depends upon if you take a lot of long distance trips and you really need the convenience of actually kicking into gas. And if you do, then we would recommend a plug-in hybrid. Most people's commute is about 26 miles per day. So definitely keep that in your mind when deciding between an electric vehicle and a plug-in hybrid. Electric vehicles these days have very long ranges. Currently, they range between 226 miles and up to 300 miles of range on a full charge. And if you have an average commute, you can see that you can actually use your car for several days before you have to recharge it. And we'll talk a little bit about charging in a moment. So let's talk about the benefits of driving an electric vehicle. cleaner air and healthy communities. I like showing this next slide. So we all know that there are pollutants that come out of a car's tailpipe, and they are harmful to human health. They're actually also harmful to crops and forests and buildings and animals. And we all know that the pollutants that come out of a gas-powered car can lead to health issues, including stroke and heart disease and lung cancer, asthma, other respiratory diseases, and the elderly and the young are particularly susceptible. Conversely, an electric vehicle, as I mentioned, has no tailpipe and no pollutants coming out of the back of the car. So just imagine this is a picture of the 280 freeway on a beautiful blue sky, clean air day. If everyone drove an electric vehicle, we could experience clean air and blue skies regularly, and we could also drastically reduce air pollution and its harmful effects on our health. Benefit number 2, EVs produce less carbon emissions than gas-powered cars. And so if we have a conversion to electric vehicles, it will help create a safer, more stable climate. I want to show you this graph. I call it a pie-shaped graph, and it is it's from 2017. It's California, the state of California's emissions, carbon dioxide emissions by sector. So you'll notice here that the electricity sector produces carbon emissions. However, in California, and in particularly here in the Bay Area, we have community choice energy providers such as Peninsula Clean Energy that source our region's electricity, and they source it as much as possible from renewable energy sources. And so our community choice energy providers are they're virtually carbon free, and that includes the city of Palo Alto. So here in the Bay Area, the slice of this carbon pie produced by electricity is actually even smaller. And the slice of the carbon pie that is attributed to the transportation sector is even larger. So statewide, transportation produces 41% of the state's carbon emission, already the largest slice of this carbon pie. Here in the Bay Area, the transportation sector contributes 60% and over of our state's carbon emissions, and 80% of our transportation sector is comprised of passenger vehicles. So you can see why Actera is laser focused on promoting the benefits of electric vehicles, because we think that it's really one of the biggest things that any individual can do to help fight climate change. All right, let's talk about cost savings and carpool lane access. So especially now, electricity costs less than gas. So fueling your electric vehicle costs less than fueling your gas-powered car. This is a study from the University of Michigan, and they calculated that on average, an EV driver saves about $830 per year versus the owner of a gas-powered car. And as we know, with what is happening right now with our gas prices increasing, these savings are only going to go up. All right, let's talk about maintenance. So electric vehicles are really very simple cars. They have 10 times fewer moving pieces underneath the hood. So there's none of these things in an electric vehicle. An electric vehicle doesn't have timing belts. It doesn't have, you don't have to do oil changes. It doesn't have spark plugs. It doesn't have mufflers, catalytic converters. You don't need to get a biannual smog check. And so EV drivers don't have to fix or replace a number of things that gas drivers have to fix and replace. There's a whole list here. I'll read a few of them. The alternator, the clutch, motor oil, muffler, radiator hoses, spark plugs, starters, timing belts, water pumps. The list goes on, because as I said before, EVs have 10 times fewer moving pieces, and that's 10 times fewer moving things that need to be maintained or fixed. So This is another report by Consumer Reports, and they did a calculation. They actually recently revised it, but the findings were exactly the same, that EV owners spent about half as much on maintenance as owners of gas-powered vehicles. All right, let's talk about the benefits for commuters. EV owners save money when crossing Bay Area bridges. So you actually have to get a fast track, and you need to get a clean vehicle decal, which I'll talk about in a moment. And when you have those two items, you actually can cross our bridges during rush hour for about half the price versus if you have a gas-powered car. There's no discount on the Golden Gate Bridge, but the other 3 bridges have the discount. So let's talk about the Clean Air Vehicle sticker. This is one reason that some people go EV. What happens is when you purchase your new car and you bring it home, you go on a website and you download an application for one of these Clean Air Vehicle stickers. You pay about $22 and it comes to you in the mail. You put it on your car and it enables you to drive in the carpool lane as a solo driver. A couple of things to note about this wonderful perk. The first is that unfortunately, this program is going to end in September of 2025. So if this is an important perk for you, you're going to want to get your EV now to take the most advantage of this amazing benefit. You'll also know that express lanes have come to the peninsula. And so EV drivers cannot drive in the express lane for free, but they can drive in the express lane for half price. And the express lanes, actually, they're just in a small corridor right now, but they are going to expand across the peninsula. Another thing that we want to note about the Clean Air Vehicle stickers is that when a new one is issued, a new color is issued each year. And so the sticker that you get when you bring your new car home is going to be valid for 3 years. So this is important if you are purchasing a used vehicle. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the screen, there are some stickers that are already expired. So if you're purchasing a used vehicle and you really want to take advantage of the carpool lane, you're going to want to make sure that the vehicle doesn't have an expired sticker. So it's going to be a little bit of a newer used car that still has some time left on its Clean Air Vehicle sticker. Okay. So you've probably heard friends that own an EV saying they're so much fun to drive. And we like to say that once you get inside one and take a test drive, you'll get your EV grin and you will realize just what all your friends who drive EVs are talking about. And that is because, there's no combustion engine. And so there's no vibration, there's no noise. It has great acceleration because it has instant torque, because the energy is coming from the battery to the motor via electricity. And so it's instant. It's a smooth, quiet ride. We really believe strongly that you must take a test drive in an electric vehicle to see how fun they really are to drive. And that's why I highly encourage you, if you are able, to take advantage of the ride and drive that the City of Sunnyvale is offering on April 9th. This is your chance to test drive a number of different makes and models all in one place without the pressure of a salesperson. And, we haven't had these events in a couple of years because of COVID. So this is really one of the first events that is taking place in a couple of years. So I highly recommend that you participate in Sunnyvale's Earth Day Ride and Drive event. Okay, let's talk about charging. So this is an element that some people are a little bit nervous about, and that's understandable because it's a completely different paradigm of how you fuel your car. It is actually more convenient to fuel your electric vehicle than it is to fuel your gas-powered car. And that is because The moment you bring your new EV home, if you have access to a 3-pronged outlet, either on the outside of your house or inside your garage, you can take the charging cord, which is this unit right here on the left, and that is provided with your vehicle. You can take your charging cord, plug it into your 3-prong outlet, plug it into your charging port, and you can start charging your car the moment you bring it home. So it's kind of the same method of charging as you use to charge your cell phone. Most of us plug in our cell phones overnight and they're fully charged in the morning. Now with a standard 3-prong outlet, that is called a level 1 charge. So it is very slow. It will give you about 40 miles of range overnight. And for a lot of people, including myself, that is enough. However, if you need a faster charge, then you do have the option of installing a level 2 home charger. And I'm pointing to one of those right now. When you do so, you will have to purchase the charger, and it costs about $600. You can buy them on Amazon. You also will have to have some electrical work done on your home, because it does take a 240-volt circuit in order to provide a faster level of electricity to your car. So that is where there will be a cost investment involved, especially if you own an older home and have an older electrical panel. It might need to be upgraded. And you do have to run the 240-volt circuitry. So that is an investment, but it is made up over time because electricity is cheaper than gas. Your electricity bill will go up when you get an EV, but of course your gas bill will go down. And if you get a 100% EV, your gas bill will go down to 0. I do want to mention the utility bill discounts that are available to income qualifying residents. So some of you may be familiar with the CARE and the FARA program. They're discount programs for income qualifying residents. Anyone who receives their energy bill from PG&E, if you meet their income guidelines, you can qualify for up to 20% off your monthly utility bill. And that makes charging your car at home even cheaper. All right, so what if you live in an apartment? It's harder. I'm going to admit, it is harder if you live in an apartment. But there are some options, and you will hear about how Actera is advocating for more equal access to EV charging a little bit later in this presentation. But I did want to highlight on this slide that there are some startup companies that are offering what are called smart outlets. There's one here on the left called Plugzio, and the one on the right is called GoPower EV. And basically they are a tool that landlords can use if they have 3-pronged outlets in their garage and they want to enable their tenants to charge. They can use one of these devices, and the EV owner would sign up, create an account, and plug their car into the outlet. And then this device enables the landlord to charge that user for exactly the amount of electricity that they use when they're charging their car. Another option, which is untested, is a new concierge service called Currently. And they are providing mobile EV charging. And they say that they provide it to apartment complexes and to various other locations in the Bay Area. It's a new company, and I haven't tried it myself, but I'm very curious if anyone in the audience tonight gives it a try. I would really love to hear how this concierge service works for them. So finally, let's talk about when is the best time to charge your electric vehicle. So PG&E is transitioning to time of use pricing, and that is in order to minimize the use of fossil fuel power plants. So the time of use pricing encourages people to power down or use less energy from 4 to 9 p.m. This is the time when power from solar energy declines, and it's before the wind power ramps up in the late evening hours. So as you can see from this image, your electricity is cheaper when you charge your car overnight. same way that you charge your cell phone. You can charge your car for less overnight, in the morning, and until early afternoon. At 4 p.m. is when the higher prices kick in. So avoid charging between 4 and 9 p.m. to keep your bills low and to fight climate change. All right, before we proceed and talk about financing your electric vehicle, I do have to talk about the state of the market. As you know, this 2-year pandemic has caused a lot of supply chain shortages, and it has caused a semiconductor chip shortage. So we're all probably aware of that. And these shortages have caused a scarcity in all passenger vehicles, including electric vehicles. So right now, the demand for our vehicles exceeds the supply. And we know what that means. That means that dealers now can charge a markup, and they're calling it market adjustments. And these market adjustments are anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000. The chip shortage is expected to last well into the second half of this year. So that's the bad news. There is good news amongst the bad news. You still can make your first car or your next car electric with patience and resourcefulness, and some of these financial incentives that we're going to talk about right now that will substantially reduce the purchase cost. So let's dive into the many local and state incentives that will help make an EV more affordable. All right. Let me go back. Credits and rebates for new EVs. So we're starting out by talking about new car purchases. So of course, if you're considering purchasing a new car, the question you'll want to ask yourself is, can I make the higher loan payments on a new car versus a used car? If yes, then these next incentives that I'm going to talk about are for you. The big one is the federal tax credit. You may have heard of it. It is a huge financial incentive. And the way it works is it is a tax credit. So what happens is if you buy a new EV tomorrow, you will have to pay the full price on the car. And then next April, when you do your taxes, you will be able to claim up to $7,500 off your taxes. So there is a waiting period between when you purchase the car and when you file your taxes. And that's when you're going to get the benefit of the federal tax credit. An important thing to know about this federal tax credit is that you have to have a tax liability in order to get this tax credit. So if you are lower income and you don't pay very many taxes, or maybe you don't have a tax liability at all, if you don't have any tax liability, unfortunately, you will not be able to take advantage of this federal tax credit. The IRS will not send you a check for $7,500. And let's say you only have a tax liability of $5,000 and you purchase an EV. That will take your tax liability down to zero, but you will not get an extra $2,500 rebate check in the mail. It's called not being fully refundable. It only takes your tax liability down to zero. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that this tax credit is based on battery size. So 100% EVs qualify for the full $7,500. If you get a plug-in hybrid, they have smaller batteries, and therefore the federal tax credit is less, somewhere along the lines of $4,500. One more thing I wanted to mention is that if you lease an EV, what you're doing is you're leasing it from the finance company. So the finance company, the manufacturer's finance company, is actually the entity that purchases the new car. So technically, they are the ones that get to claim the federal tax credit. However, in the past, a lot of financing companies have been passing through the federal tax credit to the person who leases the car. Not every manufacturer does it. Not every manufacturer does it for every model EV. And with the pandemic and the market being turned on its head, there are very few lease opportunities available right now. And manufacturers are often deciding not to pass through the federal tax credit. So it's something to be aware of if you are interested in leasing a vehicle. You should find out up front if the model that you're interested in, if the financing arm of the manufacturer is going to pass through the federal tax credit to you. All right, let's move on. Let's now talk about the California state rebate. You may have heard about this rebate. California is on the forefront of providing incentives for EV drivers. This rebate has been around for a number of years. It enables you to purchase or lease an electric vehicle. It does have to be new in order for you to claim this rebate. What you do is you claim the rebate after you purchase the car. As soon as you bring it home, you can apply. They ask for some information like the car's VIN number and some other supporting documents. And then you wait because it's a very popular program. And about 3 months or so, they will send you a rebate check in the mail. So a couple of caveats is that there are some limits to the price of the vehicle. If the vehicle can't cost more than $55,000 if it's a sedan, and there are higher income limits for SUVs and for trucks. You also, if your family income is above their income threshold, you also will not be able to get this rebate. However, if your income falls within their income qualifying guidelines, you could qualify for an additional rebate from the state of California. So if you look at this chart here, and you look at the household size versus the adjusted gross income, if your income for your household size falls underneath these income thresholds, you would qualify for the additional $2,500. That's on top of the $1,000 or the $2,000 that you get. So you could get up to $4,500 rebate if you purchase a new 100% electric vehicle and you income qualify for the additional rebate. Okay, the third statewide rebate is relatively new, and it's called the California Clean Fuel Reward. And this is a rebate that is provided by several utilities that have come together in order to provide this discount, which happens at the dealer. So it's a point of sale rebate. The dealer does have to participate in the program because they need to be trained on how to do the paperwork to get reimbursed for the discount that they give to the purchaser. So you do want to make sure, if you want to get this California Clean Fuel Reward, you'll want to make sure that the dealer that you're working with is participating, and most are. The discount at the point of sale is up to $750 for a 100% electric vehicle. Again, the discount is based on battery size. So if you're purchasing a plug-in hybrid, the discount will reduce. So let's quickly talk about an example of applying some of these rebates. This is a 2022 Nissan Leaf S Plus, which has a 226-mile range. And I found this vehicle on Stevens Creek Nissan yesterday. Nissans are pretty hard to find these days because of the state of the industry, but it looks as though Stevens Creek Nissan has several Leafs that are in transit, meaning that they're coming to their dealer soon. The MSRP is $33,895. And if you apply the 3 rebates that I just discussed, you will see that the price of the vehicle is lowered by about $10,000. So in answer to the question, is an EV affordable? I think the Nissan Leaf is really the best example that can show you how affordable a new electric vehicle is. So there's 2 things that are happening right now with the Leaf. First of all, I talked about the market adjustments that the dealers are putting on the cars. So if you go to Stevens Creek Nissan next week and you say, I want to buy the Nissan Leaf Plus for $33,895, the dealer might tell you, great, but I'm adding a market adjustment of $3,000 to the price of that car. And they can do it because supply is limited right now. The good news is, however, that Nissan reduced the price of the 2022 Leaf by between $4,000 and $6,000 versus the 2021 Leaf. So for the 2022 model year, the Nissan Leaf is actually the cheapest EV on the market today. And when you include all of these incentives, the Nissan Leaf is actually one of the cheapest cars that Nissan makes. In fact, the lowest trim level of the Nissan Leaf is the least expensive of all Nissan's models. Okay. Let's go on to talk about special grants, which is free money, basically, for purchasing either new or used electric vehicles. All right, so this first program that I want to talk about is kind of the big one, and there's some caveats to this program. You get a lot of money. However, there are certain eligibility requirements that you must meet. So first of all, this is a grant that is sponsored by the Bay Area Air Quality Air District. And so it's really targeting communities that are considered environmentally disadvantaged. So Sonia should be putting this link into the chat, and you are free to go ahead and click on the link right now. It will take you to the Clean Cars for All website. And on that website, if you scroll down, it has a list of zip codes. And if you live in one of those zip codes, you are considered living in an environmentally disadvantaged area, and you would qualify for this program. The other thing that you need in order to take advantage of this grant is you need a working vehicle that is modeled 2005 or older. And that's because this is an air district grant. They want to take high polluting vehicles off the road. So they will pay you if you turn in your older car and go EV. So let's talk about the income qualifications. You'll notice this chart is the same as the chart that I showed you for the extra California state rebate. So if you fall underneath their income thresholds, and if you live in an environmentally disadvantaged area and you have an older car to turn in, you can receive from the Clean Cars for All program up to $9,500 towards the purchase of a new or used vehicle. That's a big chunk of money. So you do have to meet all of those requirements. So it's not for everybody, but we do have additional grant programs that we're going to talk about for people that don't have an older car, for example. So let us talk about the next grant program. There's actually two, I call them sister programs. The logo is of a program called the Clean Vehicle Assistance Program, and it's a statewide program. Its sister program is called the Driving Clean Assistance Program. And if you live in the Bay Area, you qualify for both. The Clean Vehicle Assistance Program is actually closed for applications right now. So the only one that is taking applications is the Driving Clean Assistance Program, and you do have to live in the Bay Area to take advantage of that. Again, the same income qualifying chart is shown here. If you fall underneath those income thresholds, then you can get a grant anywhere between $1,500 and $5,000 towards the purchase of a new or used electric vehicle. If you buy a plug-in hybrid, you get a lower amount. And if you buy a 100% EV, you get the higher amount. Okay, so something to take note of is that you cannot combine these two grants that we just discussed. You either apply for the Clean Cars for All grant or the Clean Vehicle Assistance Program. Okay, so let's now start to talk about some county-specific rebate programs. And again, I have to applaud the state of California and the municipalities and the consumer choice energy providers in our area. There are a lot of additional grants that are available in our local area in order for people to go EV. A lot of people in other states don't have these local programs. They don't have the California statewide programs. We are so lucky here in California to have all of these additional rebate programs and grants for income qualifying consumers. So to explain the first grant, I'd like to check in and see if Alejandra Posada is here from Peninsula Clean Energy. And I'm just going to do a quick, there she is. Great. Alejandra, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spotlight you. And Alejandra is from Peninsula Clean Energy. And she is going to describe their incentives for going EV for all San Mateo County residents. Alejandra?
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Alejandra Posada. I'm with Peninsula Clean Energy, the electricity provider for San Mateo County. I oversee a couple of our EV incentive programs, so I'm going to briefly talk about them now. I'll also stay till the end in case there's any specific questions. We currently have a used electric vehicle rebate program. This is only for San Mateo County residents. We have a couple of different incentive tiers, so it's open to all residents of the county, but the base incentive, which is available for all residents, is either $700 for a plug-in hybrid or $1,000 for fully electric EV. But we have increased rebate amounts for income qualifying residents. And so if you go back to the previous slide, that just shows the income guidelines for that. So if you have an income that is, depending on your household size at or below these levels, then you would qualify for the increased amount. But if not, then you still qualify for the $700 or $1,000. So going to the next slide. This is actually the first time that we are announcing that we are increasing our incentive levels. So you all are the first to hear that. Currently, if you go to our website right now, you'll see that it says that our incentive is up to $4,000 because that's what it currently is, but we will be changing that on our website next week. We are increasing it by $2,000 for income qualifying residents. Part of the reason is to kind of adjust to market conditions, considering cars are really expensive right now. We wanted to provide additional support for folks that need a vehicle right now. So the amount kind of varies according to whether or not you are combining our incentive with another program. So some of the other programs that were mentioned, like Clean Cars for All or the Driving Clean Assistance Program, if our incentive is combined with one of those programs, then the amount would be lower by $2,000, though ultimately you would be getting more money by combining the programs. But we do have the option for just standalone getting our incentive, and that's what would result in the highest amount, which would be either $6,000 for fully electric or $5,700 for a plug-in hybrid. And one important thing to know about our program is that we do require that you apply before you actually buy a car. So it's not like a retroactive program. You can't apply for the incentive after you've already purchased a car. So if you live in San Mateo County or are interested in, purchasing an EV, used EV, actually in particular, since our program is only for used cars. If you're looking to purchase a used EV soon, I would encourage you to, go to our website and fill out our pre-application form on the website. And then we kind of follow up via email with next steps. Yeah. And I guess, okay, the other thing I should note here is that we don't have a slide for it, but we also have EV rental rebate program. So again, for San Mateo County residents, we offer a rebate up to $200 just for folks to be able to try out an EV, maybe for the weekend. That's like enough money to rent the EV for 2 to 3 days, depending on the car. And it's pretty flexible. You can rent it from, any sort of rental company that you want to use. The one that we generally recommend is Turo, just because they have a lot of EVs available in our region. But it just gives folks an opportunity to, test driving an EV and actually experience what it's like to have one, having it for a weekend and charging in and all of that. And yeah, so those are kind of the main two programs that we have for EVs right now.
Thank you, Alejandra. I can't emphasize enough what a generous program this is. And so if you live in Peninsula Clean Energy's territory, especially since they are just announcing right now that they are increasing the amount of this grant to get up to $6,000. It's, you know, it's really unique and very generous. Well, let's talk about another region. This is Marin Clean Energy's EV rebate program. So if you happen to live in Marin Clean Energy's service territory, and it's not just Marin County, it's also certain cities in Contra Costa County and in Napa County. So if you find yourself on that list, and again, if your income falls within the threshold, the same chart as with the other programs, you would qualify for a $3,500 grant towards the purchase of a new, either 100% electric or plug-in hybrid. So thank you to Marin Clean Energy for their generous grant program as well. And as Alejandra mentioned, you can combine both of these county-specific grants with the Clean Cars for All and the Clean Vehicle Assistance Program grants. So you can imagine once you're stacking these two grants, along with the California rebate, if you're purchasing new, you can take a lot of money off the purchase price of a car. So let's look at an example. All right, so this is an example of how you can combine some of these programs. In this example, we're combining the Clean Cars for All grant with the Peninsula Clean Energy grant. So remember, this is if you have an older car that you're able to turn in. There is a used car dealership based in Hayward called Rose Motor Cars, and they specialize in selling used EVs and plug-in hybrids. And again, this example was taken from their website yesterday. This is a 2018 Chevy Volt plug-in hybrid. They don't make them anymore. You can only purchase them used. It's a great car. I'm sad that they discontinued the Chevy Volt because it actually had the longest electric range of any plug-in hybrid. It can go 53 miles on a full charge. And then after that, it kicks into its gas engine for an additional 347 miles. It's a great car. At any rate, so at Rose Motor Cars in Hayward, the original sales price is $2,200. If you are fortunate enough to meet all the qualifications for the Clean Car for All grant, you can get $9,500 reduced. And if you live in Peninsula Clean Energy service territory, you can get an additional $3,700 off, which brings the price of this car from $22,000 down to less than $9,000. Okay, I will not be going into these grants, but if you live in Alameda, Santa Clara, or San Jose, there are additional grants available to you. Okay, and then just briefly, I want to give a shout out to e-bikes like Hiromi did from the City of Palo Alto Utilities. If you're at all interested in e-bikes, please come to our e-bike test ride event on April 23rd in Palo Alto. The Clean Cars for All grant, if you choose not to get an electric vehicle when you turn in your older car, they can give you up to $7,500 towards the purchase of an e-bike. And there's another program in Contra Costa County that will give its residents between $150 to $300 towards the purchase of an e-bike. Okay, so this is important. Let's talk about the timing for getting these rebates. Don't just go out tomorrow and purchase a car if you qualify for these rebates, because there's a certain timing that's involved. So let's review them quickly. Before you buy your car is when you apply for all of the income-based grants. And that's what Alejandra said. Please apply for the grant first. You have to get approved. And that can take some time. It can take between 3 and 6 months. So you want to get started on that process sooner rather than later. Once you get your approval letter for these income-based grants, you take that approval letter to the dealer, and then the dealer is authorized to give you the discount on the car. So you must apply, you must get approved before you buy your car for the income-based grants. When you go to the dealer, at the point of sale is when you get your California Clean Fuel Reward. And after you purchase your car, after you bring it home is when you can apply for the California State Rebate. There is a wait, and also for your carpool stickers. And then finally, as you recall from the very beginning of the presentation, when you file next year's taxes, that is when you can claim your federal tax credit. Okay, we are winding down. I wanted to talk about the benefit to you in this audience for attending this event. When we give you the opportunity to take the post-event survey, you can indicate if you would like to have a free one-on-one follow-up consultation with our staff or volunteers in order to help you identify which of these many incentive programs and which vehicle might be the best fit for you. So you'll have that opportunity in a moment. I want to end this section with a quote from one of our EV ambassadors, Henrietta Burrows. She applied for the Clean Cars for All grant, went through the process, and she got her Cajun red Chevy Bolt. And she says, I have found out for myself what a life-changing experience an electric vehicle can be. So in the last few minutes of time, I wanted to talk about how Actera is helping advocate for equal access to EV charging for people who live in multifamily dwellings. So before we open the survey, let's talk about if you live in a single family home. If you live in a single family home, you can easily access charging simply by plugging your EV into a standard 110 volt outlet. We talked about that before, but it can be really challenging if you are a resident of an apartment or a condo. So you'll see in this graph, since 2015, the state of California has mandated that 100% of new single family homes be built EV capable, and that's fantastic. But at the same time, only 40% of new multifamily homes are required to have some level of EV access. So this means that 60% of apartment residents won't be able to charge at home, where it's most affordable, safe, and convenient. And Actera thinks that that is not equitable. So my colleague, Linda Hutchins-Knowles, is helping Actera lead the EV Charging for All coalition. It's a diverse coalition of clean transportation advocates, environmental justice organizations, faith communities, apartment and condo residents, and others who are advocating for equitable access to EV charging for all Californians. And we're looking for more supporters. So please fill out this form if you feel a passion about this topic, about getting equal access for apartment dwellers to charging. We'll put the bit.ly in the chat, and we could definitely use your support in this coalition. There's also something else that you can do right now to speak up for EV equity. You can simply click the link, and this is also going to be put in the chat box. And this will allow you to send Governor Newsom a pre-written email asking him to champion EV charging for residents of apartments and condos. So it only takes a minute, and you'll help us reach our goal of sending 400 emails to the governor this week. So thank you. This actually concludes our formal presentation.